Exploring the beautiful blue planet we call home, wending our way through its most fascinating corners, cultures, and cuisines should be an option for anyone who's interested. And while historically there's been a major accessibility gap, it is narrowing across the travel industry thanks to people like today's guest. As the Director and Head of Disability Inclusion and ADA Compliance at Royal Caribbean, where he has spent almost 2 decades, Ron Pettit has more than quadrupled the number of his team members who are dedicated to precisely these issues. That increase corresponds to ever more guests with disabilities who are booking for anything from the choice of accessible staterooms to the autism-friendly activities, and so much in between. We're honored to have Ron with us on the podcast and thrilled to be learning more. Ron Pettit, welcome to Well Traveled with AAA.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Well, I was hoping you could start by giving listeners a bit of your own backstory and your firsthand understanding of why these initiatives we're talking about today are so important.
The first thing that I'll tell you is that I am someone with a disability. I am hard of hearing. I have 2 behind-the-ear hearing aids. But it took me a long time to really identify myself as a person with a disability. I just thought it was just like wearing glasses. And it was not until later in my career in the airline industry that, I became involved in travel for people with disabilities. I was at Northwest Airlines and I was helping to comply with the Air Care Access Act. And it's through those efforts that I realized that, my passion for travel blended over to the passion for making travel more accessible for people with disabilities. But that was in addition to my regular job, my regular day job at Northwest, and I wanted to do more. And so a position at Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines opened up as access manager, and I felt that job was, written for me. And I joined Royal Caribbean over 17 years ago as access manager. And I became, not just the contact center manager. Most of my team is built around helping our guests and travel agent partners, like those of you here at AAA, plan accessible cruise vacations and accessible shore excursions for people with disabilities. But now I've expanded the team to include disability inclusion, not only for guests, but for our employees, and making Royal Caribbean a great place to work, as well as digital accessibility and making sure that our guest employees can use the websites, mobile applications, and they're accessible.
If you're interested in learning more about accessible travel options, AAA travel agents can help you find the best experience for you. They'll make sure you're getting the best value, exclusive AAA member benefits, and up-to-date travel information to help you plan your dream vacation. Visit AAA.com/travel to connect with a AAA travel agent. When travelers think about accessibility, one thing that comes to mind immediately is the physical space they'll be staying in and how it's laid out and how well they can maneuver inside it and so on. But I think the range of what's available might come as a surprise. So I'm hoping that you can talk a bit about that.
That's great. I think that a lot of times when people think about accessibility, they think about people with mobility challenges. They think about people in wheelchairs, people in scooters. It's also a range. It's, just like autism spectrum, it's a range. People with mobility difficulties have, just difficulty walking. They may not use any mobility aids at all, but then they graduate to things like canes, walkers, rollators, and then to scooters, and then to wheelchairs, whether it's manual or power chairs. So a lot of people think about, mobility disabilities, and we talk about things like, ramps, wider doors, grab bars, and all of those sorts of things, and all about the physical space. But we have to go think about beyond mobility and go into other aspects of disability like hearing loss, vision loss. And did you know, by the way, that almost 85% of disability are not apparent. We used to call them hidden, but we're not hiding those disabilities. It's just not apparent. So it's people who have like cognitive, intellectual disabilities, mental health disabilities. You can't tell they have a disability by just looking at them. So disability implies a wide range of capabilities. And I think we try to think about it as a positive term as ability rather than disability. It says talk about what you can do. And then we design our products and services around these different aspects. We have products and services for people with mobility, accessible rooms, accessible shore excursions, um, assistance in getting on and off the ship. But then we also talk about hearing and visual. We have, products that tailor to those as well as other disabilities. So we can talk more about that as we go along.
Wonderful. And just in terms of the staterooms themselves, there's a huge range of offerings there, right?
Right. So we offer a wide variety of accessible staterooms, again, in many different categories, inside, outside, balcony, and suite. And then, a lot of it, again, around mobility. So we have wider doors, we have grab bars in the bathroom, we have, the sink and the vanity in the stateroom. You can roll your wheelchair underneath there. We have fold down shower benches. We have handheld shower controls. So we have a wide variety of features, which each and every class of ship, we increase the number of accessible rooms available to our guests. And we introduce new innovative concepts of certain accessible stateroom accommodations that you really will not find anywhere else. For example, on our Oasis class ships, you'll find that we have balcony staterooms so that instead of facing the water, you face inside. So you have a view of our Central Park and a view of our boardwalk. Our newest ship coming out in January, Icon of the Seas, we will introduce the first ever infinite balcony stateroom. So if you think about balcony accessible rooms, there's usually a ramp up to the balcony threshold and a ramp down from the threshold onto the balcony. So an infinite balcony stateroom will now have the balcony door is flush with the floor. So it's a seamless flooring surface from the stateroom out to the balcony. There's no ramp up or down. It's just straight out to the balcony. It makes it a lot easier for our guests in wheelchair scooters to access the balcony.
For listeners who may not be aware, even before you get to your stateroom, just checking in might involve some extra care. Could you talk a bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, so there's a lot about the customer or the guest journey experience, and a lot of that is pre-cruise in terms of information. We've heard a lot from our guests and travel partners that they need more information. So we have information on our consumer website. We have a little microsite that talks about accessibility about our ships. We provide a PDF brochure, both available to the guests and well as travel partners that detail a lot of our accessible offerings. So a lot of our guests and travel partners like you can do a lot of homework in advance. We do have an accessibility department that's available Monday through Friday, normal business hour, to answer any questions that you may have about preparing for a cruise, and we can help make some of those accommodation requests to make your cruise the most accessible cruise ever. And then, obviously we talk a little bit about, checking in using the mobile app. And then at the terminal, our number one request for assistance is at the terminal, wheelchair assistance for getting from the terminal on and off the ship, just much like you would at an airport. You get wheelchair assistance at an airport. The same thing happens at our cruise terminals. And so we help our guests get on and off the vessel. And so we try to help you start off your vacation in the most positive and accommodating as possible.
And your expedited check-in extends beyond passengers who might need a little extra time just for mobility reasons, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think that, we're talking a little bit about guests with intellectual and cognitive disabilities. And we talk about our Autism Friendly program, which has been around almost 10 years. And, Expedited check-in and expedited boarding is not really anything that's specifically designated at our terminals, so you will not see signs for expedited check-in because our staff are trained to direct you to the shortest line possible. And it could be any line. It could be the suite line, it could be line number 10. They will help you find the shortest check-in process as they can. You just need to self-identify to our personnel at the terminal because, again, we may not know that you have a disability unless you tell us. Some of our guests have gone so far as to print up little cards that, share information, hey, I'm autistic, and that gives a clue to our personnel to provide expedited check-in so that, some people may not really want to explain their disability in the middle of a crowded terminal where other people can hear. So this is a really a neat way of notifying our staff that you may need a little extra assistance in the terminal.
Getting ready to travel? Make sure you and your travel investment are protected with travel insurance so you can do more and worry less. For more information, visit AAA.com/travel insurance. You raised the subject of autism, and Royal Caribbean, if I am not mistaken, has been doubling its number of guests with autism and their families annually over the last several years. And as you mentioned, is coming up on a big milestone as an autism-friendly operation. So what could you tell our listeners about that aspect of your work?
Yeah, so this has been an interesting journey for us, and something that I really love to talk about. So I've been with the company for over 17 years, and we've been catering to people on the spectrum for that long, if not more. But I think one of the things that we have to do is learn more about the disability, what we can do to accommodate that. And I think, it was a journey of learning and insight. And we worked with a company called Autism on the Seas. They're actually another travel company that we work closely with. And they helped us to understand what autism is and what we as a cruise line can do to accommodate those individuals. So then that became the genesis of our autism friendly program. We also saw examples of like land-based hotels becoming more autistic friendly, and we borrow some of those concepts over to us. These are things that we have been doing all along for some of our other guests with disabilities, like expedited check-in, gluten-free meals, and a variety of other accommodations that we've been doing for a long time. And then we also incorporated some new concepts, things like autism-friendly movies. On most of our ships, we show an autism-friendly movie. It's not the movie that's autism-friendly. It's just a regular family movie, but it's the environment. So if you know about individuals' autism and some of their challenges, sometimes they can't handle, they're nonverbal, they don't handle lines well, crowded spaces, and things like that. So when we have an autism-friendly movie, it's more sensory-friendly. The light is not so dark. The people are encouraged to actually get up and walk around. Things like that, something that's sort of totally the opposite of your typical movie-going experience. Another thing that we did was we introduced a cruising social story. Now, social stories are a tool that, parents, educators have used for years to prepare individuals on the spectrum for upcoming experiences like going to school, going to the grocery store, going to the doctor. We created one for cruising that helps families prepare their child or individual on the spectrum for a cruise experience. And I can tell you that, as soon as we introduced this, we got calls from parents to say, Ron, you understand us. You've taken the tool that we used every day and you applied it to cruising. And oh my God, it helped us to prepare our son for our upcoming cruise. And it was just so very successful.
That's so wonderful to hear. And so you're leading beautifully into my next question, which is whether you have personally witnessed or just heard of any great stories that have resulted from the kinds of accessibility offerings at Royal Caribbean.
Yeah, so I love this. And this is really one of the things I love to talk about because it's really kind of reinforces why we do this. We create opportunities for families to have great experiences. For example, there was a viral video that went out years ago on Facebook about, mom posted the experience that her teenage daughter had. She's on the spectrum. She wanted to do the Flow Rider, which is our surfing simulator. I think it was on Freedom of the Seas. And, she was very nervous and anxious about the experience. And our staff kind of realized that. I don't know that they realized she was autistic or not, but they realized she needed some help. Now, if you know about Flow Rider, sometimes they have a partition in the middle so they can allow two people to ride the simulator at the same time. But what they did for this young lady is they took that center part, they stopped the Flow Rider, took the partition out, and so they were able to provide the Flow Rider experience just for the young lady. And then the staff went out with her onto the Flow Rider simulator and encouraged her to surf. And she was so happy. And everybody, that was watching didn't mind. They kind of understood what was happening and how great this experience was. And then she became known as the Flow Rider Girl, and she was famous for the rest of the cruise. And such a rewarding lesson in accessibility and inclusion, and really kind of making this amazing cruise experience for this young lady. So it was really one of those amazing stories I love to share.
Are you enjoying Well Traveled with AAA? Subscribe to this podcast today and share your thoughts on ratings and reviews. Are there any other kinds of onboard activities or excursions that are particularly well suited to travelers with disabilities?
So I think one of the great things that I love to talk about is not just our onboard experience, but our off-board or excursions in our ports of call. We've done a really great job of making our ships beautiful and accessible and all these great accessibility offerings. But, the massive part of the cruise experience is exploring the destinations we go to. So we've done a really great job of working with our shore excursions team to develop a robust list of accessible shore excursions. And, we work with several operators, including one that's called Accessible Travel Solutions, and they help us curate tours in many ports in the Caribbean and Europe. Really, we love these tours that help guests interact with the destinations and have really great experiences. We do offer the panoramic tours where, you're seeing the city from a bus. Maybe you get off at a port stop or two, but we really love these more immersive tours that allow people with disabilities to fully immerse themselves and experience the destinations that we go to.
Just a final question for you. What does well traveled mean to you?
Well traveled. I think for me and for many people that we work with, I think well traveled means that you have an awesome experience. And that is unique to each and every one of us. What makes it well traveled, it's very different. I just find that sometimes most of my best memories are places that I go to that I've met really interesting people. In fact, this past weekend, I was in Indianapolis visiting a travel agent friend and doing a little local travel expo. And it was really amazing because I got the time to meet with her family, and a lot of her clients personally on an interactive one-to-one basis. So I really think about traveling as an opportunity to meet people and learn from them, learn about the different cultures. I love going to new places, and I'm a little bit of a foodie. I love my drinks of the day, and so I always make a little bit of an adventure to find interesting restaurants or interesting cocktails or interesting desserts, and I post those, I share those, and I think that's really kind of what well travel means. It's really kind of creating these unique and special experiences that you will sort of treasure forever.
Well, thank you so much again. And I know a lot of people really, really appreciate what you do. And we'll look forward to hearing more.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to share my story. And we hope that, everyone has the ability to make the impossible possible for people with disabilities and see the world.
You can find all of our interviews with other travel experts from around the world on the Well Traveled with AAA feed on iTunes and Spotify. We hope you'll rate us or leave a comment and let us know what you think. I'm Abby Kozolczyk. Thanks for listening.